Legislator Support Services. The Legislative Research Commission has implemented a number of services for members of the General Assembly. Parking space for legislators is reserved on the second floor of the parking garage, which is connected by a tunnel to the Capitol Annex. Reception and lounge areas, offices, and committee rooms are located in the Capitol Annex. Services are designed to assist legislators with constituent needs and provide communication links for them. The toll-free legislative message line is operational weekdays from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for citizens to call legislators. The lines are for callback messages only. The message line hours may be longer during sessions. The toll-free bill status line is operational during regular and some special sessions for citizens to receive current information about the status of a particular bill or bills. The toll-free calendar line provides daily information about committee meeting dates, times, and agendas. The Message Center provides a central location for distribution of mail and messages, which are delivered to legislators several times daily. The Legislative Lounge and reception areas on the second, third, and fourth floors of the Capitol Annex provide legislators with a relaxed atmosphere in which to study and confer with each other or with staff. Admission to these areas is limited to members of the General Assembly and their immediate families, and to LRC staff on specific invitation from a legislator for legislative business only. Office accommodations for individual legislators are located on the second, third, and fourth floors of the Capitol Annex. Secretarial assistance is available for legislators in answering constituent mail and handling other legislative responsibilities. Assignments of great volume or of a long-term basis should be discussed with the supervisor. Nothing of a political nature is handled. Couriers are available during the session to take legislators to meetings in other state government locations and to deliver and pick up materials in various state offices. The Commission maintains fax units and telephone numbers for electronic transmission of documents.
Public Information Office. The Commission's Public Information Office serves as a resource for the Capitol Press Corps, the broadcast and print media throughout the state, and the public. It is charged as well with responsibility for developing and distributing informational publications and programs to make the public more aware of the General Assembly, its members, the Legislative Research Commission, and their roles in the government of the Commonwealth. The Public Information Office also provides assistance to members in preparing speeches on legislative issues only. The Information Office attempts to publicize the activities of the Kentucky legislative process by means of written releases to the press, and by audio releases for radio stations, using legislators whenever possible. Committee activity releases are mailed to newspapers across the state when appropriate. This office also contains a video sector to educate and inform the public about the legislature, its processes, activities, and current issues under study. Computer Services. The Legislative Research Commission computer system manages the extraordinary flow of paperwork in the legislative process. All bills and amendments are produced in standardized format and subsequently tracked via computer application. The system allows efficient engrossing of adopted amendments into the text of bills. Much of the content of large volume publications, such as the Legislative Record, Kentucky Acts, Senate Journal, House Journal, and Kentucky Administrative Regulations, is entered and stored in the LRC computer system prior to printing and publication by the agency. The Commission operates a local area network composed of personal computers. Benefits of this network include access to state-of-the-art software applications, enhanced system stability and reliability, and unlimited expansion capability. Legislators use individually assigned workstations as part of the LRC local area network.
Internet homepage. LRC Internet homepage address is legislature.ky.gov. Information accessible to the public via the LRC homepage includes the text of bills from previous sessions, chamber roll call votes, bill summaries from previous sessions, and summaries of pre-filed bills, names, addresses, email addresses, where applicable, and phone numbers of legislators, toll-free phone numbers, the text of the statutes and regulations, a calendar of committee meetings and committee minutes, general information on the legislative process, and legislative publications. There is a map of Kentucky counties linked to legislators' photos, addresses, and committee assignments for citizens who want to find out who their legislators are. During a session, users have access to the text of current bills and the daily status of bills. A free bill tracking service is also available to all members of the public, as well as to legislators and staff who wish to track bills. Video conference capabilities. The Legislative Research Commission provides a video conference system in each of the committee rooms in the Capitol Annex. The video conference system allows the General Assembly to conduct meetings remotely using a variety of platforms, including but not limited to Zoom and Microsoft Teams. The video conference system can enhance citizen participation in the legislative process, principally by facilitating access to committee meetings and associated activities. National and international video conferences are possible, which permit access by members of the legislature to experts on a multitude of subjects. Staffing special committees. In response to a specific situation, the General Assembly often creates special or temporary legislative research or advisory groups directed to return a report. In such instances, the Legislative Research Commission, as required, becomes the staff agency for these entities.
Additional services. The Commission is called on by the General Assembly for services not otherwise available to the individual members, the leadership, and the clerks. Rules and parliamentary advice. On occasion, the Commission is called on by the legislative leadership for assistance in drafting or amending the rules governing procedure in each chamber, or in resolving parliamentary questions arising during the course of business. Table of statutes affected. For each bill or amendment offered during a legislative session, the Commission enters those KRS sections affected in a database, which compiles a cumulative table of statutes affected by particular bills. Session organization procedure. The leadership of both chambers calls on the Commission for assistance in preparing the order of business especially applicable to the first day of legislative sessions. Forms and supplies. The Commission maintains an inventory of forms used by each clerk's office during the session and arranges for printing and distribution of these forms. Journals. The journal clerks of each chamber rely on advice from the Commission in preparation of the daily journal. Prior to printing, the Commission staff edits each day's journal for accuracy and prepares a comprehensive index. External requests. The Legislative Research Commission responds to thousands of requests for information from other state agencies and the general public. Legislative budgeting. LRC formulates the biennial budget measure for the legislative branch and implements the enacted budget.
Chapter 12, Interim Joint Committees. Pursuant to statute, the Legislative Research Commission may establish subcommittees as it deems necessary. Also by statutory law, the standing committees of the Senate and the House are combined and aligned by jurisdiction as interim joint committees for operation during the legislative interim. These interim joint committees are considered to be subcommittees of the Legislative Research Commission according to Commission rules and statute. Duties. Interim joint committees provide continuity of the Kentucky legislative process from one regular session to the next. They enable the members of the General Assembly and the public to examine and discuss issues and possible legislation before a session begins and without the usual pressures typical of a session. These committees consider proposals for legislation or investigate matters referred to them by the Legislative Research Commission, or they may themselves initiate studies or investigations of matters within their jurisdiction. Jurisdiction. Interim Joint Committee jurisdiction corresponds to that of standing committees as defined in the rules of each House of the General Assembly. The Commission decides questions relating to Interim Joint Committee jurisdiction.
Organization. During the organizational part of the odd-year regular session, co-chairs and members of legislative committees are appointed. As required under its rules of procedure for committees, the Commission names as co-chairs of each interim joint committee the chair of the Senate Standing Committee and the chair of the House Standing Committee, which are joining to form the interim committee. Each co-chair has joint responsibility for meeting agendas and co-chairing interim joint committee meetings. The interim meeting dates for committees are established in a calendar approved by the Legislative Research Commission. Subcommittees. Subcommittees of interim joint committees are created by approval of the Legislative Research Commission. Co-chairs of interim joint committees submit requests to the Commission that suggest subcommittee titles, membership, and chairs. Co-chairs of interim joint committees serve as voting ex officio members of each subcommittee created for their full committee. Staff assistants. The director of the Legislative Research Commission assigns staff members to assist each interim joint committee and its subcommittees. These persons organize meetings, conduct research, and draft legislation as requested by the committees and subcommittees. Each committee staff unit is led by a committee staff administrator who is assisted by a number of legislative analysts and clerical personnel.
Meetings, location, notice, procedure. Meetings of interim joint committees and their subcommittees are held primarily in several rooms available on the first floor of the Capitol Annex. Occasionally, committee meetings may be held in a location outside the Frankfurt area. Notice of meeting dates and times is provided to the members by the committee staff, including, when possible, a tentative agenda. The Commission's Public Information Office provides notice of committee meetings to non-legislators by way of its monthly interim legislative record and regular mailings to the various news media. If a meeting is scheduled with less than 2 weeks available for public notice or a meeting is cancelled, all interested parties are notified as quickly as possible. All meetings of Commission committees are open to the public. Pre-filing. During an interim, members of the General Assembly may pre-file legislation to be considered at the next regular session. Such bills and resolutions are introduced automatically on the first day of the next session. During the period of interim joint committee activity, the Commission refers all pre-filed bills to an appropriate committee for consideration. The committee may take no action on a particular measure, endorse the bill as pre-filed, without amendment, amend the bill with the sponsor's consent, or propose amendments with which the sponsor does not agree. Any amendments with which the sponsor agrees are incorporated into the bill prior to its introduction at the session. Amendments not agreeable to the sponsor are attached to the measure when it is introduced for disposition by the standing committee or full membership of the body. A Senate bill may be pre-filed or approved as pre-filed by an interim joint committee if it receives the affirmative votes of a majority of the Senate members of that interim joint committee. A House of Representatives bill may be pre-filed or approved as pre-filed by an interim joint committee if it receives the affirmative votes of a majority of the House members of that interim joint committee. An interim joint committee shall not pre-file a bill or approve a bill as pre-filed in any other manner.
Final reports. When interim committee activity ceases prior to the session, each committee submits a final report to the Legislative Research Commission indicating its endeavors during the interim and its recommendations for legislation to be considered by the forthcoming General Assembly. This legislation may or may not be pre-filed on behalf of the committee. The committee reports received by the Commission are assembled into one document. This document is published as a Commission informational bulletin for distribution to the members and the public.